What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. We got a couple of off-season preview videos to bang out. We're going to start with the two teams at the bottom. We have 4 of these teams to cover. We're going to kind of split them over the next week and a half. So let's talk about London and LAG. Two sort of different off-season opportunities for both these teams. And I'm going to be honest, from my end, I'm not super optimistic about their ability to really put together a good team. So let's talk about it and maybe see some of the paths they can maybe go down to achieve that. All right, let's start off talking about London. They opened the season with a different team than they finished. And really, honestly, their best result was online before Major 1 with Nasty 0, Pollux, and Asim. They actually played pretty good over those 4 matches, but it was really downhill for there as a team. There's not so much to talk about with some of these results. I mean, they were just pretty much poor at both lands and online. They finally won their first land match at Major 5, upsetting Boston, but that's really the only sort of high point for this team as far as land activity goes. They won a couple of online matches, but they were never in the mix to really make it to champs. They were never in the mix to really be a good team. They tried a couple of different lineups throughout the season. They tried a lineup with Maddie coming in for Trey and Paul X. Then that didn't work. Then they tried Yuli, and that didn't work. So it just, they have not, I mean, they didn't make as many roster changes as the 2 years prior, but it felt like watching the team this season, the pacing was off. They didn't look like they were a cohesive team in what they wanted to do in the map. So let's take a look at some of the team stats to really demonstrate this. I mean, look, this is where they finished in all game modes. First off, by far and away one of the worst control teams in the game. I'm sorry, but having a win percentage of 23% in any game mode is unacceptable. I don't care if you're not the most skilled team in the world. You practice the game mode every day. How are you winning only 7 control maps the entire season? That's wild to me. S&D, I mean, this team is very unremarkable in the game mode, winning only 35%. Like, the only maps that they were solid at were just not getting played in series, Hotel and Fortress, because this team just, you know, didn't have the confidence even if they won tosses, pick Team B, because they're just getting 3-0'd. So that kind of sucks. And then on the hard point, they were not that good either. The only map they were solid at was Fortress. Across the board, actually, they ended up the year kind of positive on Fortress, but every other map they were getting smoked. Actually, their Hydra record's not the worst. 4-6 is not the worst, but 2-6 in Hotel, 3-9 Mercado is just always a problem because one of those is usually ending up in a series you're playing a team. And yeah, I mean, there's just not much to say about this London team. I think it's sort of in a blown up territory. So let's talk about some of the paths they can maybe go down and try and rebuild this team. All right, so we're going to talk first about what I think is probably their best option. This I'm going to call the Chris Parasite strat. Chris talked about this on the flank specifically for a team like London. This was not even like this major. He made this point probably a major 2 or major 3 when it's clear this team was not on a good path. And that is, eventually in this offseason, you're going to make some decisions. And in the past, you put together these leftover teams. Don't do that. Pick up a challengers team and slowly make changes throughout the season if you think players can't meet that level. So here's a list of auto-qualified teams for challengers champs. Now, obviously some teams make it into the LCQ, but for the sake of things now, I wanted to show these teams because, man, these teams have stuck together throughout the season, and it's probably better than picking like a leftover team that's formed just for pro points. So a couple like interesting teams here that could maybe be super interesting for London, like M7 in North America, the Spartan Neptune Prologue Mohawk team. I think you get a lot of fans with the squad. I do think the sub machine gun slaying level on this team may not be super high compared to some CDL squads, but you give Mohawk a chance. I think Spark can be decent with the right squad. This could be a really slept on team, and I actually think this is not a particularly bad idea. But knowing London, they may want to go the European route. So let's take a look at some of the interesting European teams. Obviously, we have a Wobble Bobs. That's Brezzy, Abusa, Cobra, and Linz. I really like this team. You guys know that I've been a big Abusa fan since Breaking Point Next, so since like November. The only problem with this squad is I just don't see London picking up like a full French-Belgian team. But as far as like upside talent goes, I would kind of like the squad because Brezzy has had some pro level experience before. Definitely want to get him back in. Abuz is obviously nasty. And Cobra and Linz, let's see what they can do at the level. We're going to ignore Atlas Lions for now. I think that's potentially some players that are going to go to the Florida-Miami rumor team, and we'll do that in a later video. We're going to talk about these other 3 European squads. Harry, Wardy, Denza, and Mythics is the Aphelion team. There were a lot of rumors about maybe Harry joining the London team. So if you want to pull out, you can kind of, or pull that out, you can kind of go with this squad. Would be an interesting one to do. And then you've got Notorious, which is Metals, Eric Boom, Maple, and Weeman. Now, just like with the Atlas Lions team, I don't know if some of these Spanish players that are on the squad may end up on the Miami Heretics team, but maybe when we may get a shot in the CDL, sure, let's try it. And then obviously we got Detroit Deviants. This is another kind of mixed UK Spanish squad. You're seeing kind of a theme here. Gizmo, Journey, Lucky, and Vortex. Again, hard to say with this team if you would actually be able to pick them up in full, because I don't know which of some of these players are going to go to the Miami Heretics team, but I like potentially getting Gizmo back in the league. Vortex getting his shot after being a long time player, was in a couple CDL Pro leagues. So I think there's some paths here forward for London to take one or kind of maybe mix two of these European Challengers team and start with that as a base and then move up from there. I think the other path for London, and this is the path I really don't think that they should go down, because I just don't think it's going to net them the results, is to sort of do the same thing they did this season and kind of make like a little bit of a mini leftovers team. And so what I mean is you look at the 4 players they have, they're all on 1+1s, which means the team has options to pick them up this year. And London pretty much every year has not picked up any of these options. They have re-signed some of the players, but that's after they have not picked up the option to renegotiate their contract. So if it were me, I would probably bring Asim and Nasty back in if I were going to pick any 2 players from the squad. So I'd be looking for a new main AR and another sub player to play alongside Asim. So here are kind of your pro level options, realistic options, right? Realistic options right here. I think Reese Vivid, realistic option. If they want to go down that route, he could pair it nicely with Ace, and we're talking about subs. I don't think they can get Kismet. Fame would be a really interesting AR choice for, sub choice for this London team. So I can see them doing that. Maybe poach 1 or 2 of these Vegas players, but I just don't see them wanting to go to the London situation. Nero is probably going to become available. I just don't see Boston bringing him back. It seems like that kind of ship is scaled. That ship has sailed. So he might be a potential sub machine gun option. And then looking at the rest of this list, like Fellow could be a really good AR option if you want to take him from the Florida org, because he's probably gonna be gone. Maybe Capsule on a sub, and then we'll see what happens with Hook. So they've got some interesting sort of unrestricted free agent options. And if we take a look at some of the challengers players out there, especially as we look at some of the ARs, some interesting options like a Godorex, a Pierce, Tom Gravity. All interesting AR options, Major Maniac, Money Mo, that they can go down after trying to pick up individual players. As far as sub players go, you know, there's a couple on here I think are interesting. I like Dak as a potential option. Who else do I like here? Gwyn could be a really good one. Obviously, he's attached to Seattle right now. They haven't used him all season. Jimbo and Johnny, give them another shot in the CDL. Sure, that would be interesting. And then we talked obviously about some of the players on the Neptune Prolo team, but again, I think you want to pick them up in full. So you go down that route if you're London. I just don't think it's the best route. I would prefer to go the first one, but the last count thoughts on London is I just don't think they're going to make the right decisions this offseason. So I'm not really holding my breath and then building some kind of super team or underrated team. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about our final team for this video, the Los Angeles Guerrillas. It was a tough season the season prior. They just missed out on qualifying for champs, even though they had won an event, which is crazy. Slasher left. Alec comes in, so they basically swap spots. And I think off the rip, we were very critical of this team, the Hook, Neptune, Spart, Alec combo. We were like, I don't know why you would run back Hook, Neptune, Spart from last season, because that team didn't play well down the stretch. They didn't really do anything at LAN. Why would you run it back? But they were insistent on trying it, and they got waxed in Major 1. Like, they were horrifically bad at hardpoint. The team was just bad. So they basically squad wiped everybody except for Alec. Brought in 3 players from the LAG Academy team that had won the Major 1 Open, and it played pretty solid in the group stages at Major 1, the Pro-Am. That's just Assault, Exceed, and Joe Deceives. This team's had some interesting runs online. They made a couple winners bracket, and the best placing they got all season was a top 8 at the Optic Major, which is, you know, I think respectable. Or rather, it was at Boston. I'm sorry, Major 3. They got dead last because they had to play with Marky B as a sub. But the problem is you only have 1 8th placing all season. This is not a way to get points at LAN. They got 0 the rest of them. Only made 1 other winners bracket. And then that was that. And they weren't able to make changes all season because, unfortunately for the org, at some point in the middle of the winter, they decided to pretty much close up shop. And it seems like they're going to be running a very thin squad as they pulled out like other esports, fired a lot of staff. It's a very messy situation over at the guard/LAG. So here's how the team finished in game modes at the end of the season. And there's just nothing really to like here. Just like with London, they were in it being like an Ant Fortress team, but it was a really poor when you look at some of the other maps. Like Asilo, they can never figure out. Hotel, they can never figure out. Mercado, There's just nothing really of note here that you really want to like from LAG. They just, after the change, kind of had a little bit of a honeymoon period where it felt like maybe they could sneak into the top 8, but from there, they just kind of nosedive, and it felt like maybe the external and internal pressures of the team really got to them by Major 3, and it was pretty much over at that point for the squad. So let's talk about this, because I honestly don't know really what this LAG team is going to do. Now, they have let go of their analyst after Major 5, so it seems like they might be going very, very thin staff. The issue is that a number of their players are technically not option players this season. So RCDs technically still has 1 year left before they have to pick up an option. And same with Spark. Now, they can buy out both those players, but I don't know what their buyout clauses are like. So hard for me to answer that. I'll dive in and see sort of what their out is possibly there. But for Assault, Exceed, and Joe Deceives, likely won't pick up the option on either of these 3 players. So I think it's pretty much going to be Alec, like, looking for 3. And the issue is, like, we could talk, you know, unrestricted free agents. Who can you build around Alec to make a really cool squad that's going to perform good? But the issue is that I don't know if this team's not just going to pay, you know, the minimum salary for players and just kind of go from there. And so I could sit here and say, yeah, I'd like to see like TJ Halley on this team or Kisman on this team, or see them take a splash after some Thieves players. But right now, it doesn't really seem like they're going to make an investment in the team. And so that's a big, giant question mark for me. Now, what I could see is maybe Alec runs it back with Joe Deceives, and then it's Alec and Joe Deceives trying to find 2 players. Maybe Asim is someone that if gets released by London, which he likely will, maybe comes back. Him and Joe as a sub duo. Sure, I could see it. And then maybe you got to find another like flex player who can maybe be very interesting. A Capsule could be a really cool one here. But I think really what we're going to be talking about is challengers players with this team. And I just don't know what route Alec wants to go down. I think sort of the way he's been tweeting and the whole thing with him and Vickle, I just don't know where his head's at and how him and Mark are going to do a good job trying to build this roster. Personally, for me, I think that I think Alec's maybe best path to try and build some kind of culture in this team, I think might actually be running it back with Gunless. You know that I am not the biggest fan of this strat, but looking at kind of what's out there sort of in the land of challengers and kind of what's going to be needed on this team, where it feels like Alec's got some things that he's got to work through. He's going to need some help on the leadership standpoint. I think Gunless could probably help him out there at the flex position. And then listen, if you're not going down like the ASIM route with subs, you know, we talked about this earlier with London, Johnny, Jimbo, Gwyn are really interesting NA subs that you can take a look at. I like Dak as well. I don't think Nick Classic is someone they're going to go after, even though I know Pierce's team with Nick this season. I just think Nick's probably going to keep staying the Atlanta face sub. But I think Nero, maybe Pentagram, the Pro Loot and Sport sort of situation could be interesting. They could try and run back some, you know, EUNITED original team vibes of Pristini, but I think it's kind of late to sort of circle that wagon, and I don't really know if that's sort of the wisest strategy here. It's been a lot of time, and I think running back the 3 core might be not a great idea. So I think that's really kind of the path forward for LAG. There's not really much to say because I don't know much of what they're going to do with sort of this whole situation. They could also buy Alec out, and then it's a squad wipe situation, and they're building a leftovers team, and it's kind of hard at that point to really speculate on what they're going to do, because they can basically wait until after the summer, and they will wait to sign people if they squad wipe, and so it'll be hard to know what kind of teams are going to be pitching them, probably full challengers teams to join, and they can basically do what Vegas did and sort of wait till November to sign. So a lot, I think, more so uncertainty about the London situation. I think if you keep Alec, there's a path where you can make a very decent team, but they've got to find value where they got to recruit people. And just like in London, I just don't know if LAG is going to figure it out this season. Maybe next season if they're forced to stick around and they're not able to sell the spot. But if they're sticking around for one more season, it might be another really tough one for LAG, unless they can somehow build a very interesting squad with sort of leftover pieces. And that's the video, guys. I wish I had more optimism for London LAG fans, but I don't right now. So we'll see if the moves they make in the offseason are good. I just think it's really tough with both their situations, and it's going to be very tricky for them to go after any top free agent. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next video.